Today I'm gonna try to strip down, clean and rebuild this Mercury 25 jewel vintage watch. And the cool thing about this, it has a movement that has a power reserve, but the power reserve is not working. And then the other thing about it is it has radium. So if you're working with vintage watches and you're going to open one up, you need to always check them for radium. You can see this has radium because this Geiger counter is going off. And if you need a Geiger counter yourself, this is a cheap one from China. I'll put a link in the description. I'll just show you how this works. The tube in this is behind, the tube is in here. It's not very sensitive, but that is sensitive enough to tell you that there's radium in the watch. The green light flashing. And the way that you can see that that's true is if I pull the watch away, it may randomly blink, but it's basically not going to blink unless it's background radiation. So then if you put the watch there again, the green light starts going. So that's it's really important to have that if you're going to open a vintage watch. And then you're going to see, because I know it has radium, you're going to see the precautions that I take. So this is an interesting case back. The part that rotates is just this outer ring, because there's kind of incabloc metal. No, sorry, not incabloc. Antimagnetic core. That part. So there could be radium dust in there. You can see the movement. Now the other thing is, I think that arrow is interesting. So if I touch any tool, I'm going to have to worry that I've contaminated it. So for this, pressing the button to get the crown off, I'm going to use this piece of wood, which I'm going to throw away anyway. The problem is, I can't tell if that's a press or a screw. It looks like a screw, actually. Okay, so the next thing is, are there clamps? So there's no movement. I remember I opened this before. There are no case clamps in here because of that metal back. So the movement should just come out. And then we can try to get the dial off it. But I'm wondering, before I do that, if I can get this oscillating weight off. Safer. And movement. Now I want to get that radium dial off of there. So let's assume so the next problem is I don't see any evidence of freaking dial screws. Ah, this sucks. That little power reserve indicator, that's going to be tricky. How do you get that off? I think that it'd be best just to pull the dial off. But we got to figure out what's holding the dial. Oh, I see it. Okay. There's a dial screw here. Oh, man. I have sweat is pouring into my eyes. It's kind of chaotic because I'm aware of just want to get this radium part over. Yeah. Are there only 2 screws like that? Oh, so now the thing that's going to be giving me some resistance is the power reserve. I think I felt that pop. Okay. Now that's our That's our main source of radium. And then the other source, these hands. I'm going to have to wash these tools because I don't trust. Here's our power reserve hand. Okay, this is going to be washed. Now the question is, see, I don't think the movement is particularly radioactive, but what I want to do is get rid of the gloves, which are probably, look at that. Ugh. This, set this aside. The watch parts. That's going to get cleaned in the cleaner. I'm going to come back and just clean these tools in a moment. But for now, I want to place the movement get rid of all this. Oh, here's something that's kind of curious. Is there radioactive dust on this piece of paper now? There is not. So that's a huge relief. To me, that suggests, you know, there wasn't like a spill of radioactive dust. It's really confined to the hands and the dial. So for me, that's kind of the ideal situation, and that's what you expect. Ideal situation being use all that precaution, but then in the end, there's no dust anyway. It just makes me feel better to feel like I've been careful. Now we can kind of check this again. Okay, great. Now just to be clear, oh, actually, no, I put this in the water, but I'll show you what the plan is here. The radium is now there. And we want it to go underwater and then kind of wash it off of there. And I should still be very careful with this. I'll switch modes here a little bit. This plate is going to be my dirty utensil plate. And the idea here is to try to scrub off the actual radium. I threw away my wood peg, but I've got some more. So what I want to do is scrape. I want to knock off this So I'll replace this with superluminova. But I want to get rid of the radium. And if this wasn't underwater right now, there would be a problem with all this. When it breaks, the dust flies up. Okay. Now I want to try removing the water from the dial with a Q-tip. Now this is all potentially radium contaminated too, but the reason I just wanted to kind of blot this dry. Gonna try something dangerous. Okay. So now I'm going to magically make all this disappear so I can work on the movement.